Hey, what's up, everyone? Today's episode 2 of Learning HTML, and we're going to introduce the concept of styling or CSS onto our HTML page. So let's go ahead and open up the same HTML document that we created in lesson 1 of Learn HTML. And we're going to see exactly what we wrote, right? Just the basic elements to display content onto a page. So if we were to open this up again and see, what we did, it's just basic hello world and 2 paragraphs in it. But what if we want to add like styling to our website? Like, you see websites with different background colors, different sizes of the text, different styles of the text, all that good stuff. How can we add that to our HTML pages? Well, let's go ahead and add that. So the first thing we're going to do is add styling inside of our HTML element itself. So inside the opening tag of each of the elements, you can add the style property, right? And then put your CSS right in there. So let's just put color :red, and let's just see what that does. Refresh the page and you see that my header now is red because I added the style prop inside the tag and I put the color red, and this is called inline styling again. So let's do the same thing with our paragraph. Inside the opening tag we put style, and for this one I'm going to put text decoration : underline, right? Now if I save this file and I refresh the page, you see that my paragraph is now underlined. So you see how we can continuously add more and more styles to each of our elements to give them a different look and feel. So you may ask immediately, how am I supposed to know that? If I want to change the font color, I use color. If I want to add an underline, I add text decoration. Again, guys, get used to the habit of using online references. So let's just say, my recent search, how to make my text bold in CSS, and click search. I see immediately in the first response back how I could do that. So I used a property name called font weight, and then I put one of these values, and I can use that functionality. So let's do exactly that. Let's go to our last paragraph and put style, and again put font weight, and then colon, and then the value bold, right, or bolder. Let's go back to our page, refresh, and you see that now it's bolded. So get in the habit of using your online references in order to find exactly what property of CSS that you're looking to add. Or if you just want a general overlook of all the different properties that we have, use our favorite resource, W3 Schools. So W3 Schools, CSS, click on the first link, and it's going to show you all these different properties or CSS properties and how you can add them to your page in order to get a different functionality. Now, one thing I wanted to add is immediately you see with our basic design that we have, right, nothing fancy, that if I want to add more and more properties, right, let's just say I add text decoration here and I put underline again, and I put my text align, a different property to center, and I press save, right, I can do all of that in the line, right? I can add as many properties I want, but one thing that's happening is my code is growing horizontally, very much. Every time I add a property, my code is getting longer and longer, and also it's getting kind of sloppy, right? Like, look at all of this CSS code and then my little HTML code. So it's making my code not really organized. And then also another disadvantage that we have is, say for example I want to apply the same exact style to a different element. Like you see this in different sites where all pictures look the same, or all paragraphs look the same. Well, this way I would have to copy this huge line. Let's just say I make a complex design, how huge this line would be, and then copy it to a different element. So I'm copying and pasting the same exact code over and over and over. And those two problems right there are enough for us to say this is not efficient, this is not effective, there has to be a better way, right? And there is, right? The standard is not using inline styling, which means putting it in the same line as the HTML element. So let's delete all of this because this is not best practice. I just wanted to show you guys where it all fits. And let's put styling where it belongs. If you guys remember, I said that the head in episode 1, we're going to leave it blank. But styling and scripting is what goes inside of it. So now let's add style where it deserves to be by putting the style tag inside the head, right? Open and close again. And now I'm going to put my properties in here. Now, one thing you may ask immediately is, okay, I knew the H1, it knew to make the hello world red because it was on the same line, right? I put style equals color red on the same line as H1. That's how it knew to make this header red. Well, how can I do that now if it's on a completely different line? Well, we have to reference our HTML elements in order for the styling or CSS to be applied to it. And this can be done in three ways. The first way is by using the name of the element itself. So let's just say I want to use something in the body, right? I want to make the body, the background color red or blue. I could use the element name itself. So if I type body and then I use my opening and closing curly brace, because everything in CSS has to be surrounded, so everything in the body has these functionalities in between these two curly braces. Let's just say again, I make the background color, rather this time I'm going to make it light blue. That's a nice color, right? So this is saying, hey, go to the body elements and make it light blue. So let's save and refresh, and you immediately see how our background color is light blue, and I'm referencing the body so it knows where to go and apply that styling. The second way you can reference an HTML element from your CSS is by using the class property. So if I go inside my opening tag of an element, let's just say, for example, this H1, and put the class property, and then give it a class name. And this class name can be anything that you want. So let's just call it main header. Now I have to reference it here. Now, unlike referencing an HTML tag itself, if I want to reference a class, I have to start with a period. So period, and then what? Main header that I did before. Again, open and closing curly brace. And for this one, I'm going to put, again, the text decoration of underline. Refresh or save and refresh, and then you see, oh, I added it to the header. So you see that, hey, it's going to go to the header and it's going to say, hey, it has the class name of main header, so it's going to apply that functionality of underlining the text. The third way you can reference an HTML element from your CSS is by using the ID property. So if I go inside the opening tag of an element, for example, this P, and I put ID equals, and I put an ID name, I can name this first paragraph, right? And again, it can be anything you want. You just have to remember how it's by, like for example, how I put the typo here. I have to reference it exactly the same. And the way you can reference ID in CSS is using pound. So pound, and then the ID name, open and closing braces, and then I'm going to put my style. For example, I'm going to put font size 100 pixels, which is very big. So I'm going to save it, go back here, press refresh, and you see how big it got, right? Immediately, this styling was applied to this ID. So you may ask, okay, so what's the difference between class and ID? Because I can see why I wouldn't use body or the element name, because let's just say I wanted a different style for each element. So if, say, for example, this P, right? If I reference this font as P instead of main header, that's going to basically say everything that's of elements P, so for example 1 and 2, is going to be given this style. So if I save and I refresh, you immediately see 2 of my paragraphs have this style. But what if I don't want that? What if I want each paragraph to be different? That's where a class or ID would fit in, by making only that specific element with that style. So that's why I used ID in the sense, because I'm saying I only want this paragraph to be with this style. So, okay, we said, okay, the reason why we wouldn't use the element instead of a class or ID is so I can reference a specific element. Okay, but where is the separation between class and ID? Because that seems to be doing the same thing, right? Well, the difference between class and ID is that ID is not reusable. So if I have an ID of first paragraph in this P, I cannot use ID again for a different P or a different elements, right? ID is only for one element. However, class can be applied to as many elements as you want. So let's just say I want this styling of main header, which just makes something underlined, in this paragraph as well. I can reuse my class over and over again. So let's just say I do that. Now watch my last paragraph have the underline, and it has exactly that because I have this, because I have that main header there. Again, let's remove the P and put back our ID, pound, and let me spell it the same exact way with the typo, because if I spell it the right way here and it's not spelled right here, it's not going to reference it correctly. Save, and then you see how everything is different based on the way I referenced it. Now, that is all CSS really is. And of course, you would build the list bigger and bigger and add more properties that you want. So like say, for example, I want my main header to be text decoration underline, and I want it to be fonts family of, this Franklin Gothic medium font. And I save, you see how the font changed here. So if I want to add more and more styling, more and more props, this list just gets bigger. But the idea is exactly the same. How you can apply styling, how you can find the different properties using W3 Schools or a different online reference, and then applying that styling to my HTML, connecting the CSS with my HTML, making my code short, clean, organized, and separating the logic between HTML and styling here. That is episode 2, Introduction to CSS, learning how to add basic CSS onto your websites, and I'll see you guys in next class. Peace.